Does your leg press suck? Do you have tiny legs? Well, we're here with Brendan today, and we're going to look at his leg press, and we're going to see if we can come away with some tips that can help you. We're just going to start at the foot, and we're going to kind of work our way back and start with a few common tips that can be really beneficial. The first one being adequate ankle mobility. One of the things that you want to occur in squatting type motions is you want the knee to travel a good distance past the toe, causing a good amount of knee flexion or knee bend. This ensures that the quad gets nice and lengthened, and that stretch under load is going to be something that causes a lot of quad hypertrophy. So if you're lacking in ankle mobility, there are a few drills you can do, but in general, resistance training and trying to push your depth deeper and deeper over time is going to do wonders for your mobility. The other tip I would have for you is consider weightlifting shoes, which are usually between 1 inch to 1.5 inches elevated in the heel, and this artificially gives you some ankle mobility there. If you don't have either of those two problems, you can squat barefoot here, just like Brendan does, or in any non-squishy shoe. If it's squishy, sometimes that decreases stability, and that can decrease your force output. Next, and related to that, is going to be foot placement. And in general, you want your feet to go as low on the platform as you can still get full depth and keep your heel down. If either of those things get violated, you probably put your heels a little bit too low. So that's going to be kind of a starting position, and shoulder width or slightly wider than shoulder width is a really, really good place to start. Again, if you have any pinching or stabbing weird pains, you can consider doing different options than what I'm presenting to you here. Everyone's a little bit different, and you yourself are a special little unicorn. So you'll notice here he's putting his feet kind of low on the platform, and we're going to see if he can still get that full depth and keep those heels down. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Next would be the knees. In general, you want to think of the knees as kind of vertically moving along. So if your hip and your ankle are creating a magical line, your knee should roughly track in alignment with those. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Some people, their knees are going to be a little bit inside of that imaginary line. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit outside, like you see in Olympic weightlifters. What you don't want is aggressive knee caving in or aggressively pushing your knees out too far. This does tend to get overblown, and there was just a recent meta-analysis published that shows that knee valgus, or the knees caving in to some degree in the squat, is normal, not caused by glute weakness, and doesn't cause knee problems if you're not experiencing pain. So as long as you're pretty close to that midline, even if it's caving in a little bit, it's probably not going to be a problem if it's not causing you pain. Next thing that we're potentially going to look at is hip placement on the leg press. Some leg presses suck more than others, and the way they sit you into the seat almost pre-round you or mandates that you're going to be lower back rounded at the bottom position. So a few options you have for those. Set your leg press seat all the way back. That's option 1 that's really, really helpful. Option 2, quit and go to a better leg press. Option 3, put something under your lower back. All right, so this is the option that we have here. It is a yoga mat that definitely wasn't originally put here for that, but I am co-opting it to use it for lower back health. So although this does kind of pre-round your lower back, it'll take the force output off of that lumbar spine to a large degree because now you have that support. This takes the hips out of that equation and likely will allow you to go even deeper. Yep, and that looks pretty good. That's a perfect example of where I would potentially talk with the athlete, because we saw essentially like a heel and a half start to elevate a little bit. So we would either consider moving the feet up a little bit or elevated heel shoes in that instance. What you do with your hands and your upper body is largely up to you, though we do know from the literature the more stable you can tend to make yourself, the more strength output that you're going to be able to have. So if you're kind of wacky, inflatable arms, flailing tube man like Family Guy, you're probably not going to have that much force throughput to your quads, or less than you could have. So a couple really good options is to find a good place to actually grip onto the machine. Could be the handle, could be a different area, and really kind of almost feel like you're tying yourself in there. Kind of like a weird analogy is like, how hard would you hold on to the seat of an airplane if you thought it was going down? You'd be bolted in there, right? My arms are actually a little bit too long for this handle, so one of the things that I do is I actually reach under and grab the bottom of the seat. Whatever you need to do to kind of harness yourself in there is going to be a really, really good option. So far we've talked about foot placement, and in general, the lens that we're viewing this through is for optimal quad development. If you're looking for strength development more dictated towards maybe your glutes or potentially even your hamstrings, maybe consider a different movement because a deadlift's far better for that. But B, you can consider putting your foot placement higher on the platform, and that'll get more well-rounded leg development if that's what you're looking for. In terms of repetition tempo, anything between 1 second to 8 seconds on your eccentric or your lowering phase is shown to be equivocal for hypertrophy in the literature. If you go much quicker than that or much slower than that, you're likely starting to hurt your gains. So don't dive bomb the leg press, and don't take it so slow that I could write a short, spicy novel in between. When you're actually going to lift the load, that's your time to be strong, your time to be powerful. You can actually get in there and lift the load. You don't have to necessarily keep that slow either. Okay, so there's also a few different ways that you could breathe in the leg press. The first, being the less aggressive of the two, would be to gradually inhale as you're lowering the load. If you need a little bit more oomph, intra-abdominal pressure, and strength, maybe to get that last rep up to impress your gym crush, consider taking in the breath and then starting and completing your rep. Do know that when you do this though, the intra-abdominal pressure is likely going to increase your blood pressure pretty aggressively, and you might find yourself getting lightheaded. And also it's going to be contraindicated if you have blood pressure issues. Leg press is a really awesome variation to squatting style movements, and it allows you, unlike a back squat or a hack squat, to reduce axial fatigue, meaning the amount of weight throughput that actually goes through your spine. There's likely something uniquely fatiguing about loading the spine significantly. So leg press comes in as an awesome option to build your lower body without compressing and loading that spine and adding a bunch of fatigue. This is a consideration for intermediate to advanced athletes, and allows you to kind of pepper in leg press when you still need to develop those legs, but you can't afford the fatigue cost of more squats or more spine loading. So this has been our top tips for leg press. So hopefully you can use these and put together a really good leg press to hopefully build your legs up to a respectable level that someone might actually hit on you in the gym.